You're free to go.
All right, welcome everyone to the meeting of the Town of Islip Zoning Board of Appeals. I'll read the public notice and then we'll begin calling applications. Notice is hereby given that due to the novel coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic and recent executive orders issued by the governor of the Town of Islip Zoning Board of Appeals, hearing scheduled for Tuesday, October 20th, 2020 at 6 p.m. will be held electronically via Zoom webinar instead of an in-person public hearing and will be streamed live over the internet. And any comments are welcome. The agenda is subject to change without notice. Dated 10/14/2020, John M. Lorenzo, Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
All right, I'll call the first application with your permission.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Vice Chairman, just a request, please, if you don't mind, we're going to call the 514-20 first. And they're both they're both going to be presented by the same representative.
Very
She's
well.
already in as a panelist.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Scott.
Great.
No worries. So first, adjourned from September 1st, 2020, number 514-20, Frank and Joanne McGinnis. Permission to install in-ground pool, leaving a rear yard of 10 feet instead of required 18 feet and front yard of 21 feet instead of required 35 feet, to install a pool patio, leaving a front yard of 20 feet instead of the required 30 feet, to leave a shed having a side yard of 0.8 of a foot instead of required 2 feet, to leave patio having side yard of 0.7 of a foot instead of required 4 feet, to leave a hot tub having a side yard of 8.3 feet instead of the required 18 feet, to leave a deck 2 feet high having a side yard of 8.3 feet instead of the required 10 feet, to leave a shed having a front yard of 9.5 feet instead of the required 35 feet, and to leave a 6-foot fence having a front yard of 8 feet instead of required 10 feet. Residence AA, 278 District, northeast corner of Astor Drive, number 405, and Versa Place, Sayville, New York. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Good evening,
Roxanne. Good evening. Roxanne Trella, Dynamic Expediting Services with offices located at 1040 Terry Road, Ronkonkoma, New York. I do also believe that my client dialed in, Frank McGinnis.
He's been moved to the panel.
Okay. So this application was previously before the board on September 20th. Unfortunately, the prior application was submitted with an old survey. So we did have the survey updated. And in doing so, the application before the board changed with respect to the relief being requested for the pool and the patio. And because they're on a corner lot, several items had to be added to the call of the meeting. So on the prior application, the in-ground pool proposed a front yard setback of 8 feet instead of 35 and a rear yard of 8 feet instead of the required 18. Now that we have the current survey and we were able to do a plot plan for the pool and the pavers onto it, we do still need a variance, but thankfully so, it's not as substantial. The proposed front yard would actually be 21 feet instead of 35, and the proposed rear yard would be 10 feet instead of 18. We tried to move the pool in as far as we could, but to try and conform with other codes and regulations for pools and building separation, this was as into the property as we could get. As for the paver patio, that also changed from the last application. The prior application stated 4 feet for the front yard instead of the required 30 and a rear yard of 4 instead of 6. On the new plot plan, we no longer need the rear yard variance. The front still needs one, but it's much better. It's 20 feet instead of 30 feet. And I would like to also point out that that 20-foot relief is strictly just for the border around the pool so that they're not stepping directly onto grass from the pool.
Okay.
As far as the items that were added to the application, we have a deck, a hot tub, 2 sheds, concrete patio, and a 6-foot fence. The hot tub has a side yard of 8.3 and it's actually placed on top of the deck, which is also 8.3 instead of the required 10. And the deck is about 2 feet high. It's been in this exact location since about 2013.
Mhm.
The patio that they're speaking about, that's 0.7 instead of 4, is right under the small shed, which is one of the sheds on the application. It's only 32 square feet. It's on the side of the house, not on Versa Place, but the other side.
The plastic shed, right? on the side?
Yes, yep, that small one. It's 32 square feet.
Yep.
Then we have the second shed, which is located in the second front yard. That one's about 71 square feet. It's been here in this location for about 15 years. It maintains a 9.5 foot setback instead of the required 35 because it's the second front yard. And then last of all, your favorite, the 6-foot fence. While I know that the board doesn't typically grant relief for 6-foot fences, especially on a corner lot, I just wanted to point out that the fence is only shy of the required setback by 2 feet. And the house itself is set back so far into the property, it goes about 60 feet or so in. And then the fact that they're also a corner lot, they're losing so much property. So while usually I would say, it's 2 feet, we could move it or cut it down, it would make a difference, and if they could keep it at the 8 foot instead of the 10 feet, I'm sure that they would really appreciate that. And I'll take any questions that the board has.
Great.
Mr. Chairman, may I just preliminarily ask a question?
Sure.
I'm looking at a document that's up on the screen, and I don't know what it is. This is not a survey. I don't see a land surveyor's registration or license. What is this? Is it? Oh, this is something different.
I was showing the plot plan where the proposed pool was going to be and everything. This is the survey, though.
Yeah, I think, Mr. Wexler, if you look on the second page of what you have. in
Right.
front of you, you'll
Okay,
find
yeah, I just didn't see
Just an
the,
overlay. Yeah, it's just. an overlay.
okay. I didn't see that. Okay,
So the proposed in-ground pool, it is a second front yard. I know this area well, and there is a lot of distance from Versa Place to where the pool is going to be. So I kind of understand. I think we have to talk about as a board regarding the second front yard and the pool. Most of the pool is behind the dwelling. These lots on Astor Drive and Versa over there are kind of small and shallow, and there's not much room to put anything in there. And I know what the board's going to say, but I don't have a real problem with in my opinion, the pool being back there. I don't know what everyone else has to say about that.
I have a question. I'm looking at the relaxation and 10 instead of 18. I know off the top of my head, that's 55% relaxation.
Mhm.
Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. 21 over 35, I'm going to spitball it. It's in between 55 and 60%.
The math just changed maybe just a little bit because it's a cluster zone. So
Okay.
we generally view that as a requirement for 14 feet, not 18.
So 10 over 14, and what about the 21?
There is, I believe, a B zone in here, and there are some pools that only required.
No, that wasn't my question.
20
My
feet.
question is, what is the setback requirement when it's a cluster at 35 feet? What do we reduce it to?
Well, it's
Or what have we?
yeah, it's one zoning category less, and I'm not as familiar with second front yard setbacks that I can rattle that off. Sorry.
I think, A, I would like to know that, and B, it's significant. I mean, let's say it's not 60% or 55, it's 40%.
I agree with you. The numbers don't lie, and you're correct about that, Mr. Wexler. But Deidre, do we have a plot plan, an aerial that you can show Mr. Wexler the area? Because there is a ton of room between, in the second front yard, and the roads are real wide down there. There's a good amount of room there, where that, and most of that pool is behind the rear of the dwelling. On there, we have to. I believe, in my opinion, we have to think about for future second front yards and areas, and we have to look at it per basis. And this, in my opinion, this house has plenty of room to vary that. It could be written real well on it. It's not right up against it.
John, I'm sorry, I don't even know which is the subject property.
Right, that corner, I can't point at it because I don't.
So,
know.
yeah,
Yeah, that right
Okay.
there.
going all the way to the left, right on the corner.
But you see the lot line, and then there's more room in the town frontage, and then there's the wide Versa Place off of there. All the roads are real wide around there, so where it would be, the second front yard there is a real wide road there that's going on there. So I don't know.
I don't know about the wide road defense, Mr. Chairman. I'm sure there's no precedent. Otherwise, it would have been brought to our attention.
There is precedent for the rear yard. I had spoken with planning a couple of weeks ago and we were able to pull 4 cases. They're pretty old, but they do exist, with a rear yard of 8 feet and 10 feet, which is exactly what we're proposing. And it wasn't just one precedent, there is 4.
Were
And
they for pool?
three of them, they were for in-ground pools. And
How old are those cases?
all 3 of them are on Astor Drive, and they're 2 are from the 70s and 1 is from the 90s.
Don't we usually follow what one side's got to comply? I mean, if I've learned nothing of 10 years on the board, that's something that rings true. What's the rationale for jettisoning that tonight? There is no rationale, but be it as it may.
I agree with you on that. My rationale is that most of this pool is behind the dwelling.
Well, that's a separate issue, whether it's in front or behind. I'm saying what's for giving relaxation on both sides. I mean, just last week.
It's a second front yard, so the relief on the second front yard, as we know, is extreme, right? So the people in this area and other areas in the town of Islip have these nice homes on a lot that gets kind of, they lose some their yard because of the corner. This the second front yard issue that we have in the code. So I'm not sure that putting a pool on this mostly behind this dwelling in a second front yard in this area is going to change the nature and character of the neighborhood. And that's one of the 5 steps that we have to look at, right?
Well, I believe it will change the nature and character because we won't say no to the next 1, 2, 3, 4 that follow it. We all know that.
Well, we don't know that we won't say no to them. We don't know that.
No, we never do. Somebody's going to say, look, at
You can't say
16
never.
Astor
Never
Place.
is forever. You can't say never.
No, you know what? Come on, let's not pretend we don't know what goes on.
I think the chairman's point is that were this not a corner lot, there would not be such a significant demand or requirement for relief.
Yeah, and I have a question that I can give you an answer to. I'm sorry. Dan Burgos is nice enough to have zoomed in and just let me know that the second front yard setback in A zoning would be 27 feet. So it's 21 instead of the required 27.
Well, this is double A though.
I understand it's 278 cluster, so we usually bump down. And when I was asked the question as to what that would be, I didn't have
I
the
see,
answer.
I see, yes, sorry.
I would like to, Mr. Chairman, I would like to reserve so we can discuss it because we consistently want adherence on one side. And if we're going to change that, which is a direction the board is welcome to go, if we are going to change that when it's on 2 front yards, that's something I think we should consider and opine about writing on.
I agree with you.
Give some work to Mr. Garbarino.
I have no problem with reserving and doing that. My point is that because it's a cluster in this area, I should have been more specific. I think that it could be written well, other areas that are not clusters that we don't zone down on. I think that you have a definite good argument, Mr. Wexler. I just think that we should discuss it and really look into this one. Well, I'm
And
not
if we
sure-
want to carve out exceptions for double front yards because they get penalized or 280 clusters or what have you, that's up to the board. I think
Yeah,
we should
sure.
discuss it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yep. I don't disagree with it one bit.
You're a wise man.
I've learned well. So can we, do you want to just go over the
The
other,
rest of the application?
the application first to see if we're going to discuss more of that or what? The hot tub, 8.3 instead of required 18.
It's a big ask too.
It is a hot tub though. It's not,
Right, and it's placed on top of the deck, which requires 10 feet of a setback.
I believe the hot tubs though, they're on the same code as a pool, right? And
Yes.
and I've always argued since I've been on the board that a hot tub's not a pool unless you can cannonball in it.
And a water.
Barry, I'm
feature
in.
as
Great.
well.
Yes,
Who is
it does carry the same setback as a pool.
Yeah, and so I think that, in my opinion, the code's a little outdated with that because of, it's a hot tub, not a pool, right? So I think we should talk about that too, if so be. Correct or no?
Yeah, sure.
The fence, the 6 foot instead of 6 foot fence, the 8 foot instead of required 10?
8 feet instead of required 10.
How does the board feel about that? There is a ton of room between the lot line
And
and
the town right away.
town right away. Traverse the place. So we can discuss that also, but I think that something like that can be written if you have that much room type of thing, but we can talk about that also. All
And
right,
then there's the paver patio around the pool, which no longer needs the rear yard variance. It would just be also because it's in the second front yard. And it's just that one strip right around the edge of the pool.
sure. All right. So does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Sullivan, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to reserve decision.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application reserved. Roxanne, we have 62 days by state law. We'll do the best we can.
Thank you.
Next application, number 593-20, Lucia Domingo and Giuseppina Menina, trustees of the Joanne Menina Family Irrevocable Trust. Permission to establish accessory apartment pursuant to Islip Town Code, Section 68-602, having gross floor area of 895 square feet instead of permitted 800 square feet, and to leave a driveway having a width of 25.5 feet instead of permitted 18 feet. Residence A District, west side of Patricia Avenue, number 1160, 87.5 feet south of Brancatelli Court, West Islip. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Roxanne Trella, Dynamic Expediting with offices at 1040 Terry Road, Ronkonkoma, New York.
Hey, Roxanne, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
So I'm just looking at the CO on this, not to cut you off, but was this one of the dwellings that was once a families only, and now they're?
Yes. So it was established in 2014. It was renewed once, and when it came up for the second renewal, unfortunately, the family member that was part of the 2-family requirement passed away. So we had to change the application from a 2-family to an accessory apartment for this renewal.
Okay.
So in speaking with zoning and planning, what I've tried to do is we came up with a new floor plan to bring down the apartment that she was in to the 800 square feet. And in trying to do so, to bring it down to the 800, she would literally have to put a wall through the bedroom and separate where the closets are and make that almost like an exterior storage. So what they've said is in the past,
Isn't your argument that this is already existing essentially as for multiple family use, if you will, just under a different section of the code, and there'll be no adverse impacts whatsoever by allowing it?
yes.
And I believe in the past, Mr. Messina, we have seen and voted on dwellings that were once 2-families only in a situation like this has happened.
Right.
And I believe, and Mary can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that we've granted
No.
small variances on.
Yeah, we've done about 2 or 3 where it exceeds 800 within reason, where it was a legal family use only that we renewed several times.
You know, in my mind, there's just no difference. There's no rational basis to deny it. That's just my opinion, though.
I'm with you. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Wex, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Wexler, you have to unmute yourself. You
There
look
we go.
very handsome
The
speaking
bird.
without being heard, but you know.
The birds were tweeting outside and didn't want Mary to reproach me on that. I'll make a motion that we grant the application for a period of 3 years and also grant the application with respect to the driveway.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Application granted. See you in 3 years, Ms. Farrell.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Good night.
Bye.
Application is number 594-20. Daniel Cardno, permission to leave pool patio having rear yard of 2 feet instead of required 6 feet. Shed having rear yard of 3.4 feet instead of required 4 feet. And a driveway having a side yard of 1 foot instead of the required 4 feet. Residence B District, northwest corner of Madison Avenue, number 1505, and Alden Avenue, West Islip. Is there anyone here for the applicant? Mr. Sarah, is there anyone here?
Anyone here for this?
He's here. You can't see him? Okay, he's here. You just have to unmute yourself, Dan. There we go.
Wow, it looks like he's in a sci-fi film.
I can't even see him.
Yeah, we can't hear you, sir.
Name and address for the applicant if you can hear us, sir.
You getting that, Natasha?
Let the record reflect there is silence, even though the applicant is trying to speak.
Anybody read lips?
Why don't we second call this and give him an opportunity to work out his issue, Mr. Chairman?
The mayor, does he have speakers on or a microphone on his?
It doesn't
Do you,
say.
do you see the,
I don't see him at all, to be honest with you.
oh, you don't see his face?
I see his
No, I
face.
see his face, but it looks like Dr. Karloff or something. Boris
IT
Karloff.
is telling me that it seems that he does have a microphone. And he is unmuted. So, Dan, I'm going to ask you to start video again. I don't know if we can do this by just having him nod because the application is pretty straightforward. There we go. Oh, that's better. Look, he's nodding and thumbs up.
Mr. Chairman, I guess what I'm saying is I don't have any objection to the application.
Yeah,
Me-
I don't, I told the minimus, I don't either. So we'll see if anyone wants to be heard in this application. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Wex, I'll take a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion that we grant this silent application.
And I will second, and I will nominate him for best presentation of the evening.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Application granted, sir. Have a good night.
I know. Good job.
We
Next
should have more
application.
applicants like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Number 595-20, Jason Bang. Permission to leave patio having a rear yard occupancy of 33.9% instead of permitted 30%. Residence A District, south side of Manta Court, number 36, 392.5 feet east of Bayview Drive, Oakdale, New York. Is there anyone here for the applicant? Sir, you have to unmute yourself.
Okay, I think we are. Can you
There
hear
you
me now, sir?
Yes, we got you. How are you, sir?
Good, how are you? Thank
Name
you.
and address for the record, please.
Jason Bang, 36 Manta Court, Oakdale, New York.
How are you tonight?
I'm well, thank you.
Good.
So you heard my nomination of the last applicant, right?
I did.
All right. Sorry, Mr. Chairman. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Fine. So you're here for seeking permission for a slight increase in rear yard occupancy. The code says 30%. We see as a board many times, and we grant up to 40%. So you're within our threshold. So if you have nothing to say, we can take a vote.
And I do not, sir, thank you.
All right, good answer. Just kidding. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Sullivan, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Granted. Have a good night.
Thank you, you too. Thank you.
Application number 596-20, the Collins Business Group, Inc., excuse me. Permission to install driveway on side property line not having required setback of 4 feet in a Residence B district, east side of 3rd Avenue, number 429, 250 feet north of First Street, Bayport, New York. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
Yes, he's here. I've just moved him in. See if we can help.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Ken, how are you, sir?
Good. I'm good. How are you guys?
Good. Name and address for the record, please.
Michael Collins, 298 Kansas Street, Lindenhurst, New York, 11757.
How are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good. Did you
Very
start-
good.
Sure. So you're here seeking permission to install a driveway on side property line. Is it installed already? Or you're looking to install one?
No, the driveway's already there, and what we did was we built a new house, but the detached garage was grandfathered in, and the detached garage is about 18 inches off the property line. It's a 2-car garage, and we can't access one unless the driveway is extended to the property line.
So if you're 18 inches off though, and the application says permission to install. So
He's
if
talking
you're
about the
installed-
driveway, Mr. Chairman. It's just the driveway to get to the garage.
Yeah, I
understand
think
that.
what we meant to put in was it to install a Belgian block line in along there.
Right.
Oh, okay.
It's in a cloud on the survey for the other members' benefit.
Yeah, can I just ask, what does that cloud represent? I mean,
That's the area where the variance would go, Mr. Wexler.
oh, okay,
He just needs it for that small portion, not the entire length of the property.
Correct.
okay. I've never seen anybody designate it like that.
I didn't know what else to do.
I know we
Fair
see.
enough, no.
It's
I'm sorry.
helpful.
I know we see this many times. I do believe, and I could be wrong, that I read a letter that Mary may have forwarded me earlier. Is this the application, Mary, as opposition?
It is. It is. I have the letter here, a neighbor who has concerns with the presence, I guess, driveway.
Right to the north?
Correct, the most impacted.
Okay. You want to read it for the record or you?
Sure, sure. We're in possession of an email to the board with concerns from the adjacent property owner, who is the most impacted neighbor, I guess you would say, to the north.
Is there a
Apparently,
name for the neighbor?
sorry,
Is there a name for the neighbor?
the neighbor is Jason Walsh.
Thank you.
And apparently the driveway, I guess, was beginning to be installed and maybe the block was laid and there was a concern that it was not on the applicant's property. I guess maybe there was an attempt to cover it up and redo it or something. And this application was, I imagine, subsequently filed. The neighbor is concerned about his marketability if he ever sells his home. And he says his whole south property line is now a driveway and a garage. He says he's concerned about its proximity to his yard where his children would be playing. And he's also talking about a fence issue between him and the adjacent property, possibly a prior owner. I'm not sure if I understand that. He's concerned because he called the zoning board of appeals office, and I'm sorry about this, but he believes that he was told that the board often does grant similar applications. And I'm not sure if that's the case, but that's what he's saying happened in the phone call. And he worries about, he says that he's a tax-paying resident and he worries that his concerns are falling on deaf ears.
And,
Well, he's been heard now.
Yep.
One real quick question. Sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Messina. I'm reading the letter, the email myself right now. And it states on number 2, the builder removed those bushes without consulting me. So now I'm staring at this house and now feel the need to move the fence to escape future property line disagreements. Is that what happened, sir? Did you remove bushes?
No, on our side of the property, there was a lower hedge along the front there. But those were ours on our property that we did remove. His
Oh.
fence is actually about 18 inches onto his property. So his concern when he had spoken to, or when he had his dad speak to us, was that he wanted to move his fence onto the property line. And I said, I had no problem with that. His concern was accessing those extra 18 inches. I said, I'm not closing it off. You know, you can access your 18 inches. I have no problem with that. We just want to put a Belgian block along our side of the property line and put a driveway in so we can access the garage, the second half of the garage.
Okay. That's good. As I said earlier, I know we see many of these, and it's not that long of a driveway or Belgian block for your terms, due to the length of the property that you have there on the north side of your property. Don't take a vote. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Sullivan, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Application granted. Have a good night.
Next
Thank you very much.
Next application is number 597-20, Caitlin Eloise. Permission to leave detached garage 18.4 feet by 25.3 feet irregular, having a side yard of 3.2 feet instead of required 4 feet. Residence B District, west side of Rollstone Avenue, number 120, 60 feet north of Brook Street, West Sayville, New York. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
Yes. I am.
Good evening, how are you?
Hi, good evening. How are you?
Good. Name and address for the record, please.
My married name is Caitlin Delzato, but maiden name Caitlin Alois. Address 120 Rollstone Avenue in West Sayville, New York.
Great, how are you tonight?
Good, how are you?
I apologize for mispronouncing your name, ma'am.
That's okay.
You have a detached structure that's a little bit too close. It appears to be on the CO
Yes.
of your property. What got you here to this point? Why are you here with that?
So actually this garage was built as part of our extension and detached garage 6 years ago. We never got the final CO. And when we went to get the final CO for the house and the detached garage, we found out that it was built too close. Honestly, I don't know what happened 6 years ago, why it was built at 3.2 instead of the required 4.
Okay.
Our original garage was only a foot away from the property line, so never knew that it would be an issue.
Okey dokes. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Sullivan, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted. Have a great night.
Thank you, you too.
Next application, number 598-20, Kathleen McCauley and Joseph M. Diaz. Permission to leave a deck having a front yard on a through lot of 12.8 feet, hot tub having a front yard of 13 feet, and gazebo having a front yard of 11.4 feet instead of the required 25 feet each. Residence B District, east side of Kent Court, number 28, 406.46 feet northwest of Dogwood Road, through lot to Deer Park Avenue, West Islip, New York. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
Here.
I'm here.
Good evening, how are you, sir?
Excellent, thank you.
Name and address for the record, please.
My name is John Weiss, JW Consulting, Post Office Box 674, Coram, New York.
Great, great. So your client is on a through lot that backs up to Deer Park Avenue, New York State.
Yes, we've also supplied pictures showing the fact that there's a privacy bushes and a silencing wall, if you want to call it, of bushes.
Yeah, honestly, the place that you would encroach on, I don't think it's not gonna have that much of an issue being that it's Deer Park Avenue, in my opinion, but we can hear.
Oh, agreed, Mr. Chairman, agreed.
I'm not trying to cut you off, sir. I apologize.
Oh, no.
But-
Oh, by the way, before you started the meeting, you guys were live.
We were only live to the attendees. We weren't live to the public. So thank you, though.
Okay, I'm just saying.
We were live.
Did you hear anything good?
No,
No, not really, Mr. Wexler, not at all.
All right.
We're boring people, sir.
Well, speak for yourself.
I will, proudly.
Well, I apologize greatly if we said anything that was,
No, it was very, very entertaining.
okay. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Wex, I'll take a motion.
I'll make the motion that we grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted, so have a great night.
You too, enjoy. Stay healthy.
You too.
Next application is number 599-20 Susan A. Hug and Franklin W. Eisman Jr. Permission to leave detached garage having a rear yard of 6.3 feet instead of the required 7 feet, as approved as part of ZBA number 171-01. A portico having a front yard of 19.5 feet instead of permitted encroachment setback of 20 feet. A shed having a second front yard of 1.6 feet instead of the required 20 feet, and a driveway on the side property line not having the required setback of 4 feet. Resident District, southwest corner of Cadman Road, number 550, and Douglas Avenue, West Islip, New York. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
Start video? Yeah, yes.
We can hear you.
Yes.
There you
See you now, too. Good evening.
How you doing?
Good. Name and address for the record, please.
Frank Eisman, 550 Cadman Road, West Islip, New York.
How are you tonight?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good.
Mr.
So-
President, before we get started, you came in on 2 devices. I'm going to remove the second one because it's just a bright light on the ceiling.
Okay. Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay.
We need a bright light somewhere, so.
There we go.
And not that she has to speak, but if the lady next to you would like to speak, she just have to have a name and address for the record also. I don't know if she wants to speak.
Okay. Oh, all right.
So, just,
I think she's now.
you
Now
got-
we need the dog's name.
So you have a detached garage. It appears that they probably built it parallel to the house, which is a little bit not parallel to your property line. So that's why the one corner.
That's exactly what happened there.
That's
Yes.
what it looks according to the survey. I know you have a ZBA approval for that,
Yep.
so seems de minimis. You have a portico 19.5 instead of 20. Again, a little off on that one too. We have a shed in the second front yard, 1.6 instead of 20. When was that shed built?
That shed came with the house. It was relocated when the garage was built 20 years ago.
And Mr. Chairman, I would just note that the side yard for the house is only 17.5 or 6 feet. So there's
Correct.
no way to comply if you want to put anything there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Okay.
You mean the second front yard?
Yeah.
So Mary, the shed behind the front line of the dwelling doesn't apply on the second front yard? Is that what it is? I just don't want them to have to come back because it seems that that shed is up there.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think behind the front line of the dwelling would be to the south because it would be the second front.
Yeah, this
So-
is the second front. That's the issue. The front, obviously has 30 feet to, on the 29.5. So
Yeah, so either way, John, it's not, I think the one that zoning is looking at is the second front yard behind that front
Okay.
line of the
My
dwelling.
only point is that with a 20-foot requirement and only 17.6 feet to the dwelling,
Yeah. So,
there's nothing you could put there without the need of a variance.
right.
so Cadman Road is a front yard or? Yeah,
Douglas.
right, Cadman Road.
Douglas is Cadman Road. Yes, is the front yard. Douglas is the side yard.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. I apologize. I was just looking too deep into it. And driveway and side property line is a very small part of the driveway, de minimis, right in that one little corner. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions?
I'm just, yeah, I do, Mr. Chairman. I'm just looking at the shed. Should we have it moved back a little? Is it, I don't know what the code said 20 years ago regarding where the shed had to be located.
I had that question also behind the front line of the dwelling, but
That was usually the board's policy for many, many years, was as long as it was, regardless of whether it was the front or the second front, it was as long as it was behind the front line of the dwelling, especially on the corner lots on the second fronts.
So was that in existence 20 years ago?
Yes, it was.
I think he means was that provision. It was a board
yes.
policy. It was a
Yeah.
board policy. Like if this case was presented to the zoning board 20 years ago, they would have drawn a little line from the northwest corner of the house,
Right.
backyard, and said, set it behind this line.
And when did that change, Mary? 2003-ish?
When Dick Shire wasn't chairman anymore.
That
So
was me then.
I hate to say this, but Ms. Pissarro and I are the only ones old enough, I think, to remember that.
That was, so that changed 10 years ago
It is. That was, yeah, that's right, Mr. Chairman. That's right.
with the chairman that followed Mr. Shire.
He was top.
Harry was a great guy.
Depends who you ask.
Shire?
Okay. Okay, I'm good. Thank you.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Wex, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion that we grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Application granted, guys. Have a great night.
Thank you, guys. Have a great night.
You too.
Mr. Vice Chairman, I'm going to jump off for one quick second. I'll be right back. If you can keep going, I appreciate it.
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman. Next application is number 600-20, Thomas and Sharon Kennedy and Barbara Kennedy. Permission to erect a second-story addition, 13.1 feet by 26.6 feet, leaving a rear yard of 15.1 feet instead of the required 25 feet. And to erect a roof deck, 11.1 feet by 21.6 feet, leaving a rear yard of 16.1 feet instead of the required 25 feet. Residence BAA District, west side of Broadway, number 96, 80 feet south of Central Walk, Fair Harbor, New York. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
I've moved them in. Let's see if they need any help.
Okay.
Oh, it's Cedric. Cedric, you'll have to unmute yourself. Now I've just asked you to start your video. Okay, now unmute. Microphone with the little X through it. There you go.
Nope, still on mute.
Try hitting the space bar.
Yes, how about now?
Good.
Apologies.
Is that Deirdre giving tech support?
That was me.
That was
Natasha.
Natasha giving tech support.
Thank you.
It's a full service court reporting service. I just want to say.
Good evening, members of the board. Cedric Legray, architect, representing the Kennedy family tonight. PO Box 261 in Ocean Beach, New York, 11770. We have a cottage from the 40s here, which was added on over time. And in particular, in 2006, there was a small addition to the north side of the cottage, which pretty much set the existing footprint. And at this time, we would like to add a second story, which would be following the west and north existing walls, but then it would create a non-conforming condition again in the rear yard.
Sure. Mr. Wexler, does anything jump out at you on this application?
No, I don't. I think this is pretty much what you see in Fair Harbor. Is that correct, Mr. Legray?
That is correct, with the T is silent, yes.
Oh, Legray. I didn't say Legret.
No,
I said Legray.
No, he was complimenting you, Mr. Wexler.
Oh, yes, thank you.
I know you're not used to that.
Yeah, no, rarely.
Yes,
All right.
that's correct.
Any other questions from the board on this application?
So you're just going straight up, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
All right. No other questions from the board? Planning, do you wish to be heard?
No.
Okay, thank you. Anyone from the audience wish to be heard? There being no one, Mr. Wexler, I'll entertain a motion.
Yes, I'll make a motion that we grant Mr. Legray's application.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, so carried. Congratulations, Mr. Legray. Application granted. Our next application is number 601-20, Jennifer and Martin Gagliano Jr. Permission to leave driveway on side property line and currently encroaching 9 inches onto adjacent parcel, not having the required setback of 4 feet. Residence A District, east side of Port Avenue, number 11, 200 feet north of Johnson Avenue, Ronkonkoma, New York. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
Yes, good evening. Can you hear me, Steve Bertolino?
Sure can, Mr. Bertolino. Name and address for you. Give your name, just your address for the record, please, sir.
130 West Main Street, East Islip, New York. And for the record, I am not making this presentation. I have a friend of mine who is unfamiliar with Zoom, who came into my office seeking help. His name is Michael Darkangelis, and he will be the presenter tonight.
Okay, Mr. Bertolino, good to know there's tech support for applicants out there in the private.
I'm just taking my cues from the board and staff.
Sir, your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, Mike Doc Angeles, 144 Carlton Avenue, East Islip, New York.
Okay, thank you, sir. So just before we even begin, you understand we cannot grant you relief that encroaches on another parcel, right? We can only grant you relief to the property line if we see fit.
I understand that. Yes, I do.
Okay.
Um,
Is there-
the-
Go ahead.
Okay.
I mean, is there anything you want to add to this?
I was just gonna say that the Gaglianos have lived there since 1994. The driveway's always been there. The neighbor to the left doesn't mind that it's there. I know you can't permit an encroachment on their property. But he just wanted you to know that most of the driveway does conform, that one part doesn't.
We can see from the survey. It's just a tiny little part that.
Okay, I just wanted to convey his thoughts, that's all.
Right. Thank you so much. Is any questions from the board? No questions from board. Planning, do you wish to be heard? Nothing from Ms. Ryan? All right, thank you. Anyone from the audience wish to be heard on this application? There being no one, Mr. How about Mr. Sullivan? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, I will move to grant the application.
And I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
The chairman, you're back.
Back.
Oh, we missed you.
Thank you very much, members of the
Great night,
board.
Mr. Higgins.
Have a good night, sir.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. The next application is number 602-20. Dorothy Lou Steele, permission to leave shed having 2.8 feet behind the front line of dwelling instead of required 20 feet. Residence A District, east side of Violet Street, number 89, 125 feet north of Rose Avenue, Central Islip, New York. Is there anyone here for the?
She's here.
They're here. Mary's like a pro now on Zoom.
I am.
Oh, yes. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you tonight?
Chairman of the board, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dorothy Lou Steele. My address is 89 Violet Street in Central Islip.
How are you?
1122.
How are you tonight?
And thank you, sir.
Great. How long has that shed that's not 20 feet behind the front line of the dwelling been erected on your property?
It's about over 8 years.
Over 8 years. The code says that a shed needs to be 20 feet behind the most front line of the property, and yours is not. Can it be moved back?
It would be physically unable to do that, sir.
And why is that, ma'am? What's the shed made out of?
It's the one that we purchased from BJ's.
Okay.
That's it, yeah.
Made of plastic?
Yeah,
Steel?
plastic.
Okay.
Unfortunately, ma'am, the code, we have to, we don't write the code, we have to uphold it. And the code states the shed needs to be 20 foot behind the front line of the dwelling. Now, if you told us that it was built over 10 years ago, the code said 10 foot, not 20. It was changed back about 10 years ago, maybe a little more, but it's still a little bit too close in the front, to the front of the dwelling.
May I just ask a question, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
Ms. Steele, it's an important number, when it was built. When you were asked, you said approximately 8 years ago. Is there any records you could search that would give a more accurate date that it was built? Because if it was 10 years, that has significance for both us and you.
Yes, sir. I could look for that. It should be.
Because if it comes out that it is 10 feet, that augurs to your benefit greatly.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
I'll go and search for that, sir. But I think it could be at that particular time. It could have been.
Okay.
Would you like to take a short adjournment and come back?
We could reserve decision also, Mr. Chairman, and allow the applicant to submit.
Okay. We could do that too. We could do that.
It's your pleasure.
Ms. Steele, may I recommend that you go on Google and search Google historical aerials? And there's a very helpful website that will provide you aerials in various increments, going back even in some instances to the 40s, although they're not very useful. but that may help you determine
Okay,
approximately when this structure was constructed.
And
Okay.
you'll have 62 days to do it. So, I mean, we'd appreciate it in 30 if you could.
okay, I will do my very best. Thank you very much.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion.
Are we adjourning or
Reserve.
Reserving.
motion to reserve decision?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Application reserved. Have a great night, Mr.
Okay, thank you.
Next application is number 603-20, Virginia Bromberg. Permission to erect two-story addition, second-story addition, and roofed-over patio, leaving side yards of 22 feet and 22.9 feet instead of the required 25 feet each, and total side yards of 44.9 feet instead of the required 60 feet. Residence AAA, District, west side of Lawrence Lane, 100 feet south of Manatuck Lane, Bay Shore, New York. This is number 22 Lawrence Lane, excuse me. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
Oh, shoot. Yes, she's here. Hold on now. I just made a mistake and moved her back. Coming for you, Virginia. Hold on. Okay, now I'm going to ask you to start your video and to unmute yourself. There we go. Now unmute. Little red microphone. There you
Oh,
go.
yep, I see it.
Good
Okay.
evening. How are you?
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for your help. This is new to me.
That's okay. How are you tonight? Good?
I'm fine. I'm fine. Sounds like you're great. All of you have a lot of fun and do your job so well. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
So you're
Fine.
seeking permission to erect a two-story addition. It appears that you already have a one-story addition where you're erecting a two-story addition. Is that correct? Or the other side?
Yes, yes. My parents built this when they moved into the house in 1947. It's an existing screened-in porch that I want to enclose to make a year-round room, and then build above it a larger bathroom and laundry room and like that.
Okay, so the existing one-story already holds 22.9, I believe.
And the existing main dwelling is 2.5 stories, my plot plan says. Is that correct, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, and there is a certificate of compliance for the screen porch too. On it.
I'm sorry, was that a question?
No question. I'm sorry, I was just stating a fact.
Oh, okay.
Deidre, any objection from planning?
No objections. The screen porch holds the 22-foot side yard as well.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application?
There is a neighbor in support. I've moved him into the panel, but if you don't wish to speak, Mr. Rouleau, that's fine. Oh, I think you are unmuted. You have unmuted yourself, so,
Now he's muted.
oh, okay. I guess that means he doesn't wish to speak. We have a letter of support or an email of support from Paul Rouleau, who is the adjacent property owner at 20 Lawrence.
He's unmuted now. Sir, do you want to speak?
Oh,
Not necessarily. I sent the letter in, but I just want to, continue with my support for Ginny and the addition that she's looking to do. I think it's, can only help the neighborhood. And it's, I think it's just a great idea for her.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Well, if you're for Ginny, we're for Ginny.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Oh my gosh.
Does anyone else wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion.
Motion to grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Application granted. You have a great night.
Mr. Chairman, the next application is number 604-20. Peter and Lisa Blandenbergo. Excuse me if I butchered that. Permission to leave cabana 16.8 feet by 30.2 feet, having a rear yard of 5.1 feet instead of required 10 feet. And pool patio having a rear yard of 4.8 feet instead of required 6 feet. Rear yard occupancy of 52.25% instead of permitted 30%. Residence AAA District, south side of Middle Road, number 634, 236.89 feet west of Ocean Avenue, Bayport. Mr. Tripkovsky, are you here?
Yes, I am. Richard Tripkovsky, 173 North Main Street, agent for the application. Sable, New York.
How are you tonight?
Thank you. Well, and yourself?
Good, good, good. Do you want to state your case or you would like us to
Sure.
go through it?
Yeah, I'd like to break it down in three parts. First, in regards to the cabana, the homeowner set out to build the cabana to be less than 500 square feet, which would require a 4-foot setback. A licensed contractor in Islip Town built it with a foundation that would have maintained that requirement. However, after the siding was added, the total square foot had came a little over about 507 square feet, which required then a 10-foot setback. A good portion of that is open space with a roof over. It basically is a cabana, but about half of it is enclosed. The other half is like an outside eating area.
How long has it been there, sir?
A couple of years. There was a permit put in for it and it was approved. And the only problem came with it was because after it was built, when we went back, they found that the size was now in excess of 500 square feet.
Okay, so no complaints, right? There are no open complaints on it?
Not that I'm aware of.
I do have a letter of
Paper
opposition.
opposition.
Yeah.
No. I'm talking about complaints from the town. I apologize. I meant
No
notices of violation, et cetera.
No, there was a permit put in for it.
Okay.
And it was built to what we thought was standards, but when it was completed, as we were trying to close out some other permits, it came up that it was over 500 square foot.
Got it.
Therefore the setback was not correct.
Do we have any photographs, Mr. Tripakowski, of this?
I did submit photographs. Hopefully you have them, yes.
My concern, well, let's see. I'd like, Mr. Chairman, if we could see the photographs.
I would love to see the photographs. I don't know. I don't have them, so I can't share them. But
We're
I can
gonna have
read-
to hope that Deirdre can share on the fly. Oh, I don't think you can though, Deirdre, do you? Because you don't have the photographs.
No,
I think less than half of it is enclosed. The other half is out like an outside kitchen. So to speak.
Right, here's my concern is, we've had these before, when people have a bar in an eating area, it's conducive to hanging out and noise, and what's that close, it's concern, at least for me. So that's why I'd like to see what it looks like.
Mr. Wexler, we have a letter that was emailed over from the abutting neighbor on South Ocean. And I'll read it real quick. It says, "Dear Mr. Lorenzo, regarding public hearing on 634 Middle. Number one, the structure represents a nuisance to 12 South Ocean Avenue. It's very loud," and that's in big parentheses.
Oh.
The backyard cover is far too large, 52.25% with an exclamation point. The structure may be considered or used as domicile. The existence of the structure may impede the ability to sell 12 South Ocean. See attached prior history. It's not that he should have known better. He did know better, but he did it anyway. And there's a history of this property. This owner had something in front of the board. I believe they Article 78 it, 78'd it, if you want to say that for right.
It was actually a prior owner, and the Blandenbergos stepped in at some point during the appeals. I know this because I handled the litigation, and we took it to the appellate division. And where we were yes, for the town, where we were very successful, by the way.
The town won.
The town won, yes.
Yeah.
But the Blandenbergos were not the original applicant. They purchased the house midstream, let's say.
I'm sorry, Chris, could you tell me in a sentence or two what the Article 78 was of and concerning?
If I recall correctly, it was the pool.
It was a pool. They built a pool without a permit. They installed a non-conforming ground swimming pool without a permit, and they lost. They sued the town. The town won. I'm not sure what's going on now at the pool.
It's not before us though, right?
But may I add to that?
But the pool is still there.
No.
So much for an order from the appellate division. Whatever.
No. Mr. Wexler, if I may add.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Can I be heard? Yes. Yeah.
Sure.
I want to add to the background of this because I was involved with the previous owner. The pool that originally existed had, I believe, again, an 8-foot setback. It was the prior owner. It was denied. And the new owner, the Blandenbergers, purchased it, and they actually built a brand new pool, which was approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals. We went before the board to have a different setback. The old pool was ripped out, and a new one was built with the
Okay.
proper setback.
All right, I get it. I'm glad to hear that. But let's talk about the cabana. It's kind of what I thought. I see the bar chairs right there and the seating area and, okay.
Okay, but again, back to the cabana, the original footprint, which we requested the builder, which has been doing business with the town for quite a number of years, was required to keep it under 500 square feet. And it was an error in judgment, I guess. They built it with after the siding, it made it less than 8 square feet over the 500 square foot.
What
If it
siding,
was
Mr.
8 foot
Chapman?
less, it would have been okay at 4 foot. I mean, it's a very minimal amount.
Okay.
But what do we have to factor in the noise complaints from the neighbors. That's something we have to consider. I'm not saying how much weight we are placing on it, but that's something that comes into the picture. Yes?
It's in the record. It's in the record.
Yeah, I think that we need to possibly, in my opinion, reserve this application and discuss it and go over it. What I just would like to do is speak about the rear yard occupancy. You know, Mr. Chapkowski, that the code says 30%, we see up to 40%. Your client's at 52.25.
That is correct. And I will address, because there's 2 other things that we're issuing here also, is so that we cover everything. So, but with rear yard occupancy, as far as the rear yard occupancy said, this property is unique. The home is historical and rather large for the house, leaving a very small rear yard with frontage on Middle Road. Traffic is heavy, and it's very difficult to pull out onto Middle Road because it's right on the curve. So
What does that have to do with rear yard occupancy?
well, what has to do was they added a driveway to go back, so they may be able to turn around and exit the property forward rather than backing out onto Middle Road. And so what
Yeah, but if that
happens-
was the standard, Mr. Chipakowski, we'd have to let everybody do it.
Understood, but this is unique to others.
What's unique about it?
Unique is that it makes it easier for the occupant.
Well, that's not unique, but go ahead.
We consider it unique.
Mr.
Right.
Trubakowski, just to point something out, nobody does something because it makes it more difficult for the occupant. Everybody who comes here seeking to legalize something, they've done it because it was easier to do it that way. So that's not unique.
Since we're on unique, if I could just make the record clear, if I may, Mr. Chairman, for zoning purposes, unique is not because somebody wants it and did it. Unique is, for instance, there's 1,000 pieces of property and there's only one that's got 98%. That's unique. Or something that directly affects the property, not how the property owner addresses it. That doesn't make it unique. Then everybody could make their property unique. It's the property itself that has to be unique, not its use.
The property is unique in the fact that because of when it was built in historical before zoning, it's smaller with a very small rear yard. It's on a heavily traveled road, and it is very difficult to exit it. This is the reason. However,
But Mr.
the
Chipkowski,
board feels
1 second. Can I interrupt you? Do you mind for 1 second? The driveway on the survey, and I understand your argument. I know the area well. But the driveway, you could turn around. You don't have to be that large to turn a car around to pull it out straight on the middle road. I'm just being honest with you. You see the size of the driveway that they built going down to the rear yard of this property. So if they had to come down to 40% and taking part of that driveway away would bring them down to 40%, what the board would like to see, I'm sure it could be done, and they could still turn the car around and get out onto Middle Road. Is that correct?
if that is a requirement of the board, yes, we'd be willing to
Well,
accept.
you've heard in the past and you've heard us say tonight that
I
we
understand.
allow up to 40%. So if that's part of where you would take the extra 12, whatever, 22.2, the 12.25%.
12.2%.
Yeah.
We would be willing to do that, yes.
Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
That's okay.
We want to finish? I apologize. I interrupted you.
No, that's fine. Yes, if the board sees fit to allow only 40%, while we'd rather different, yes, we will accept the 40% and reduce the size of the driveway.
Okay. You kept saying regarding the cabana, I don't know if you called it siding on it, but it appears from the pictures that it's an open cabana. There's no siding that's on it.
No, that's not, no, if you look at the pictures closely, part of the cabana is open, but the other part is closed. It's an enclosed structure which has a bathroom in it, which is approved by the health department, et cetera. And the foundation of the cabana did meet the setbacks. Looking at it here, that's looking at it from the side of the pool, that's the open part. But around the other side, which I gave pictures of also, which is not here, shows the enclosed part. The siding is what makes it beyond the 500 square feet, because the foundation of the actual enclosed part, which I guess the open part of the cabana meets that also, which encloses the whole thing, makes it, it's over by 8 square feet. But the actual foundation, which was originally permitted and allowed, was under 500 square feet, or at about 500 square feet. Once they added the siding, which I've ran into this before, it adds about 2 inches to each side, thus the extra 8 square feet.
Okay.
I just think that we need to look at this because we have no problem as a board when somebody builds a garage or a shed and it's 1.4 instead of 4 feet. That happens every day. But a garage usually doesn't make a whole lot of noise. This is designed to have people look at all the seating. And this is something that I think we need to kick around because it's, I'll use your term, it's unique.
I agree with you, Mr. Wexler.
And thank you, Mr. Wexler, and I appreciate that. But honestly, if you look at it, if you take the whole size of it, 2 inches around the outside, and you could have the outside seating, would it really make that much of a bigger difference? It's 8 square feet.
That's a point. I mean, you make a very good point.
Yep. So I agree with Mr. Wexler. I think we possibly should just, being that there was some neighbor opposition, we should kick it around and look into all aspects of this property and the area. But I would like to hear from planning, Deirdre, if she has any, or planning has any opinion.
It is an entertainment center that's right by the rear yard of the adjacent property. So I do get the concerns and I do think it should be reserved just to really be thought about. Because it's a little bit over the square footage that's allowed, but that then brings it into a different requirements. So that's kind of what needs to be discussed. The patio, it wasn't really mentioned, but that's also completely fine. It's, I think, 4 point something instead of 6.
Yep.
And then same with the rear yard occupancy. As long as he's willing to go down to 40%, I'm fine with that.
All right, thank you. All right, does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Sullivan, I'll take a motion. Dan?
He's on mute.
Yeah.
Might I
Okay.
add something to it, if I may?
I'm here. I'm sorry. I moved to reserve decision.
Hold on 1 second, Dan. Go ahead, Mr. Kowski, go ahead.
Yeah, the only thing we do request is, unfortunately, the property owner is at this point forced to sell the property, and it is up on the market. So we would request a decision as soon as possible, please.
Sure. We'll do the best we can. As you know, we have 62 days and it is some trying times right now, but we will do the best we can.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Mr. Sullivan, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to reserve decision.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application reserved. Have a great day, Mr. Kowski.
Thank you.
Next application is number 605-20, Latoya Victoria Stevens, permission to leave a two-story addition, 14.1 feet by 34.1 feet, irregular, having a floor area ratio of 30.3% instead of the permitted 25%. Detached garage, 12 feet by 32.1 feet, having 6 feet behind the front line of the dwelling instead of required 20 feet. A shed having a side yard of 6/10 of a foot instead of the required 2 feet, and a driveway having a side yard of 3 feet instead of the required 4 feet. Residence AA 278 District, east side of Jewel Bet Drive, number 89, 720.57 feet north of Sunrise Drive, Sayville. Mr. Trukowski, name and address for the record, please.
Yes, Richard Tripakowski, agent for the applicant, 173 North Main Street, Sayville, New York.
How are you tonight again?
Very well, thank you. I'm sorry that I have two of the more difficult applications tonight. But I would like to propose what we have here, which is also a little unique, I'll call it. My client, who was originally Douglas Woos, had made a proposal to install the pre-built garage back in 2010. At that time, the proposed location shows where it is now, the current location. The garage was proposed for the restoration of his classic car. At the time, July 8th, 2010, the zoning board required him to go to the ZBA for excessive FAR, but there was no problem with the location as far as setback from the house at that time. The town code changed and the accessory structures under 500 square feet are not counted in FAR calculations any longer. However, it now does not meet the setback requirements. The original location, which was okay at the time, as they were told at that time, is the only possible location, and there's only an in-ground pool behind it, which would make it impossible to move it back. The pool was built and CO'd in 1975. The home was sold to the new owners since I've been hired, but it's still used strictly for storage. Number two, the previous homeowner was under the impression that all was covered by the CO for the home itself. However, it appears when the additions were added to the CO, a 14.1 by 34.1 second floor addition was omitted and creates an FAR relief required of 30.3%. Town often allows 30% and 0.3% is minimal from that. Precedence. The shed 8 by 14 has a setback of 0.6 feet rather than 2 feet, and we would request at this point it be allowed to remain unless at some point in the future it does need to be replaced. The driveway has a setback of 3 feet rather than 4 foot. I'm not sure when it predates the requirement for a 4-foot setback, but it is a reasonable request for relief.
So, thank you, by the way. So let's go back to the frame detached garage.
Yes.
You state that when it was being built and submitted, they were told that it could be built there, but I believe from your timeline, the code at that point was 10 feet behind the front line of the dwelling, and it's only 6.
Yes, but I do have a copy of the permit at that point and the denial from zoning board, which said nothing about the setback. It only said about the FAR relief.
Okay, so the permit wasn't issued, so you can't have a copy of the permit. You can have a copy of the
The application.
have a copy of the permit application. Let's just get the record clear. And I'm looking at the notes myself right now, and it does say that there was a concern about FAR, so that they were contacting the owner. It doesn't say that the front yard setback was fine.
Doesn't say it wasn't though either, does it?
Exactly. That's my.
Was there a permit filed? There either was or there
It
wasn't.
was an application filed, but the permit was not issued.
And what was the setback in the application filed?
Exactly where it is. I have a copy of a survey that shows a plot plan showing where it was proposed. And that's also on the town records because that's where I got it from.
But Mr. Trukowski proposed and submitted to the town and given the permit to build are two separate issues, no?
Yes, I understand that. But the point is, when the proposed was sent, when it went up to zoning, the only issue that zoning had was the FAR, was back in that time, they did include accessory structures.
No, but you're missing a step. You're missing a huge step. I submit an application and I want to build on 99.9% of the property instead of the 25%. I never get the permit. I don't then get to say, well, I submitted an application, therefore it's okay. It doesn't work that way.
No.
They submitted an application, but they never got the permit. Wouldn't they appeal to the ZBA from the denial of the permit?
Yes, that's the point. The ZBA, or not the ZBA, but the zoning department of the town of Islip looked at it and they did create a denial, but the denial was for the FAR, not for the setback.
Okay, we got the
We have
argument.
copies of.
So Deirdre, from planning, do we have any precedent of the high FAR in the area, or is it a somewhat complying neighborhood?
No precedent.
Do we have any precedent for any?
Nope.
What
there's
about
no
this?
precedent for
It's a-
anything.
Not for the setback.
Nope. The only thing that there was a shed granted at 11 feet behind the dwelling if they could prove it predates 2010. But this is a garage and certain things.
What's your opinion on it, planning's opinion on?
I don't know what happened at that time between the application being filed, so I don't know if something was verbally said or verbally discussed. So I don't know. It wasn't issued. That's kind of what it comes back to. It wasn't issued, so it wasn't really allowed.
So planning, what you're saying is planning is an objection to this application, correct?
Correct. Mhm. Except to the driveway, that's minimal.
Yeah, that was minimal, right? All right, Mr. Chupkowski, I think we're going to have to discuss this also and look into the area at this maybe possibly reserved decision.
Yeah, the only thing I would request as you're considering it is that an application was put in while a permit was not issued. The issue at that point was the FAR, considering the garage, which is now not an issue any longer, although the other FAR is because of the second story addition. The pool's beyond it, which makes it impossible to move it back. At that point, it was not pointed out that it could not be where it was. And that we do have documentation showing that. And when it was denied by the zoning department, it was denied for the FAR, not for the setback.
I still don't follow you, and just, I guess we can close out the record, Mr. Trubowski. I still don't, if everybody who appeared before us said, I filed the application, I never get the permit, there you go. What we would need a zoning board.
Yes.
That's just
but
not
it's
the law.
Yes, but it is beyond filing an application. We got something from the zoning board saying why.
I don't know what you got from the zoning. You never got anything from the zoning board. You keep saying that. You never got anything. You had nothing to appeal.
I apologize. If from the zoning
department can't, wait a while, zoning department can't give you a variance.
No, I never said a variance was given. You're misunderstanding what I'm saying.
No, I understand what you're saying, but you miss a whole step. Otherwise, everybody would come in and claim the same thing. But I get it. I understand your argument. Thank you.
All right, does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Sullivan, I'll take a motion.
Just for the record, I just want to say that we did have neighbors call who have concerns about the some impacts from the house, and we'll just say some current issues going on in the neighborhood. It's I don't want to validate it any more than that, because neither of the neighbors was available, and they still haven't. One had zoomed in earlier, but I think had to leave. So the concerns were negative impacts on the adjacent properties of a generalized nature.
Okay.
Thank you.
May I add to that?
Sure.
Okay, I understand that, and I believe those are more code enforcement issues. It's not because of the use. It's not because of the garage or storage area. And I know there are some issues. I've heard of them.
What are the issues that you've heard of?
It's just general characteristics of how.
Well, you got to be a little more. Tell us what it is. Don't tell us general characteristics. That's not giving me an answer. What is it that you heard?
Neighbors are not happy with the people who are living there. That's the best way I can put it there. But that has nothing to do with the use of what we're requesting.
Agreed.
It's a code enforcement issue.
Well, it's not even that. Who lives there is irrelevant to us. It's the use of the property that matters.
Correct.
The public notice now in the age of COVID hearings, virtual hearings, actually encourages phone calls to the office.
No,
Not something that I'm thrilled about either, but I feel like I have the obligation to at least express it, so.
Understood. Thank you, Mayor. Does anyone else wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Sullivan will take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to reserve decision.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chapakowski, as you know, we have 62 days by law to render a decision, and we'll do the best we can.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Have a great night.
You too.
Next application is number 606-20, Matthew Allen Sanchez and Sarah Esther Kim. Permission to erect a 2-story dwelling with attached storage building / outdoor shower and decking, not having the required lot width of 60 feet throughout. Residence B AA District, southwest side of Sextant Walk, number 16, east side, through lot of Compass Walk, Robbins Rest, New York. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Ryan Yoshida with Scott Edwards Architecture, and our address is 2525 East Burnside Street, Portland, Oregon, 97214.
Coming all the way in from Oregon, huh?
Yeah, but from the comfort of my house.
I think he wins the award from the furthest away we've ever had an applicant's
Oh,
representative.
nice.
Fire Island.
That's awesome.
Doesn't get you anything, but you win the award.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
So go ahead, state your case, sir.
So as you know, we're looking to build a new house. The lot is 50 feet in width. The new design for the house will meet all required setbacks. And our client has a C of O for the existing house on the portion of lot.
So it is an existing house, according to the survey, I believe it's 1.5-story frame dwelling?
Yes.
It's on there right now?
Yep.
And you're proposing what?
It's a 2-story house.
Okay. All right.
So you're just going straight up?
Yep, pretty much straight up from the outside of the rectangle.
Pretty much.
Well, the house
there
is
something?
being,
Well-
I'm sorry. Let me just make, when you, generally when the board says just going straight up, that means over the existing foundation. The existing house is going to be demolished if it hasn't been already, right?
Yeah. We're hoping to reuse some of the piles from the existing foundation.
So I'll try again. We have this East Coast thing we use, Mr. Yoshida. The new house is just going to go exactly where the old one is, only it's going to be 2 stories instead of 1?
Yeah. The footprint's a little bit bigger though.
Okay.
But
But you have all the required setbacks. And what's
We'll
the FAR is not an issue either?
It's not in front of us, so.
No, it's not
Okay.
in front of us. That's right.
I think Dan say it's not in front of us, and then we have it.
Not in front of us.
All right.
Yeah, Deirdre, do we have any objection from planning?
No objections. There's actually quite a few precedent of houses being built on 50-foot lots, and this is only 50 feet until the end of the house, and then it actually has this back portion here that I think gets to 75 feet. So there's no other relief they're being asked for, no side yards, FAR, anything like that. So no objections.
All right. Does anyone wish? to-
We do have in the panel a neighboring property owner who I think might want to be heard. You'll have to unmute yourself, Ruth, if you want us to hear you.
I didn't get a chance to even ask that yet.
No, you don't. Okay.
Let the record reflect.
Sorry, John.
Go ahead, no.
Okay, and is that Terry Wisen with you as well? Can't hear you. Sorry, but there 2 people had expressed interest.
She couldn't get on. She was on, then she was logged off. So actually, she's watching via FaceTime.
Okay, and
Okay.
we don't think that she
So-
wants to let us know anything?
Do you want to say anything?
No, they pretty much answered all questions.
You've answered the questions. We're good.
Great. Does anyone else wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Wexler, take a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion that we grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted. Have a great night.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Two. Application number 260-20, Marcela E. Rodriguez Cisneros. Permission to establish an accessory apartment pursuant to Islip Town Code Section 68-602, Residence B District, south side of Ames Street, number 122, 175 feet west of Broadway, Brentwood, New York. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
Mr. Chairman, I'm just going to take a quick break. Please proceed without me.
Sure.
We had some trouble getting this person to understand how to zoom in tonight. If we can second call her, maybe I can give a shot at calling her. and getting her
It's a straightforward application. Is there,
I can call her if you want, but maybe let me move in the next panelist if you don't mind.
well, maybe.
However you want to handle it.
Maybe we can consider this, is what I'm saying. It's,
Sounds good to me.
again,
I did speak
Chairman's
to
call, not mine, but.
I agree with you, Mr. Vice Chairman. I think we can, it seems to be straightforward. It appears that the apartment is 618 square feet. The driveway complies. I'm assuming it's going to be owner occupied, Mary, correct?
Yeah, so that's what she said. I spoke with her about, 3 hours ago, and she was concerned with being able to zoom in, like I said, but her phone number, the phone number came up as this name, and that's the address that she lives at.
Okay, great. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion.
Motion to grant the application for a period of 3 years.
Second.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Application granted. Be in 3 years.
Next application, number 256-20, Ruben Garcia. Permission to establish accessory apartment pursuant to Islip Town Code Section 68-602, Residence AA District, east side of Peck Avenue, number 1881, 525.5 feet south of Pioneer Drive, Bay Shore, New York. Is there anyone here for the applicant? No one, Ms. Pissarro?
Oh, he's there. Yeah, he just waved to us. Ruben, can you say hello so we can see if we can hear you?
Hello to everybody.
Hello, Mr. Garcia.
How are you?
Thank you. Good. This moment, get Ruben Garcia. I live at 1881 Peck Avenue, Bay Shore.
How are you tonight?
Good. Everything's all right.
Great. Like to hear that. You're here seeking permission to establish accessory apartment. Appears the apartment is 506 square feet. Driveway complies. Owner occupied, right? Correct, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Everything else complies, man?
Yes, everything complies.
All right. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion.
Motion to grant the application for a period of 3 years.
Second.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Application granted, sir, in 3 years.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Next application number 607-20, JAA Holdings 4 FI LLC. Permission to erect two-story dwelling with second-story balcony, leaving a front yard of 20 feet instead of required 25 feet. Roofed over porch, leaving a side yard of 7 feet instead of required 10 feet. Total side yards of 19.9 feet instead of the required 25 feet, resulting in floor area ratio of 39.98 instead of permitted 30%. And to install sanitary system, leaving a side yard of 5 feet instead of the required 10 feet. Residence B AA District, east side of Surf View Walk, number 28, 180 feet south of Central Walk, Seaview, New York. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I'm Glenn Graham with Graham Associates, 1981 Union Boulevard, Bay Shore, New York. The applicants, the Aronskis, are looking to rebuild a current home that's on the property. They'd like to put up a modest 4-bedroom home, about 2,200 square feet. The variances we're seeking are for a small front balcony, highlighted here in yellow, and a wraparound porch. Perhaps if I could share my screen, I'd be happy to pull up some elevations and could show the board the rest of the application. You able to see that now, the front elevation?
Yep, got that.
Yeah, so it's just a small front balcony. The rest of the house conforms. Same thing on the side. We have a small open-air porch that's overhanging.
Do we have an aerial of what's adjacent to that, the next property?
Let's see if I have some Google Earth.
If
I don't, but we
Ms.
have
Ryan,
shared.
Ms. Ryan might. Ms. Ryan, do you?
I do. He just has to stop screen sharing and I can show the
Sure.
aerial.
Stop sharing
ahead.
so much, Mr. Graham.
We did reach out to the 4 impacted neighbors, and we have letters of support from 4 of the neighbors.
Including the one on that side?
Yeah, the most impacted neighbor, and I can pull that up next. I did send those to Maria early today.
I have them. And
Okay.
I actually was able to provide the plans to the most impacted neighbor, which would be the one to the north, right?
Yes.
And that neighbor is still in support, Ms. Becerra?
Yes, today I received the letter in support.
Thank you, and thank you, Ms. Ryan.
Ms. Ryan, Deirdre, we have the floor area ratio far around Sea View. I'm sure that 39.98 is within holdings of the area. Is that correct?
Yes, there's precedent for 40.2%, 39.7%, and there's front yard precedent and side yard precedent as well.
Great. All right. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application?
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask one question? Maybe of Will, put him to work. I don't know, with respect to sanitary system setbacks, is that something the zoning board, or is that controlled by county health, or? I have no idea.
I think I can answer that, Mr. Wexler. So the setback of the structure is controlled by the zoning board, but the sufficiency of the system is the jurisdiction of county health.
Okay, thank you. Will's gonna say the same thing.
Sorry, I didn't hear you. I apologize. I didn't mean to steal Mr. Garbarino's thunder.
All right. Thanks, buddy.
He's smarter than me anyway.
Doubtful.
Anyone else wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Wex, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion that we grant the application.
Second.
Second.
Favor?
All right.
Application granted. Have a great night, sir.
Thank you very much.
Next application is number 608-20, Town of Islip Community Development Agency. Permission to subdivide lot into 2 parcels. Lot number 1, to erect a 1-story dwelling on a lot having a width of 50 feet instead of the required 75 feet. Lot area of 5,000 square feet instead of the required 7,500 square feet. Side yard of 11.8 feet instead of 14 feet. Total side yards of 25.8 feet instead of required 28 feet. Rear yard of 17.1 feet instead of the required 25 feet. And a floor area ratio of 28% instead of the permitted 25%. On lot number 2, to erect a 1-story dwelling on a lot having a width of 50 feet instead of required 75 feet. Lot area of 5,000 square feet instead of required 7,500 square feet. Side yard of 11.8 feet instead of the required 14 feet, with total side yards of 25.8 feet instead of the required 28 feet. Rear yard of 17.1 feet instead of required 25 feet, and floor area ratio of 28% instead of permitted 25%. Residence B District, north side of Cornell Street, number 21, 100 feet east of Freeman Avenue, through lot to Dartmouth Street, Islip, New York. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Graham.
Go ahead, Jay. Go ahead, Mr. Bowers.
We have Jay Bowers, and Jay, I'm sending you a message to start your video.
And for the record, Mr. Bowers is the chairman of the CBA. Is that correct?
Yes, I am actually the executive director, Mr. Messina.
Apologize. I didn't mean to demean your office, sir.
Gentlemen, and Mayor and others, it's very nice to have a chance to say hello. It's been a while. And
Hi, Jay.
Pleasure.
Good to
Hi.
see you too, Jay.
Thank you. Thank you. Just a couple of quick matters, and then Mr. Graham will be presenting the application. So I'm actually the applicant, so to speak. Quickly, we're going to withdraw some of the requests for relief because we had the 2 homes, proposed homes, redesigned when we met with Mr. Graham. So we will not need rear yard setback. We will not need FAR. And I just want to point out that on the 1 side yard, 11.8, this is a resident B district. Everything was 10 foot until they changed the ordinance for 2 story structures in 1988 and one-story structures in 1992. So basically, 11.8 will not change anything in the nature and character of the area. This matter was on before the board in 1973, and the split was actually granted. But nobody moved forward, so as you know, after a period of time, it lapses. It
So,
came back.
Mr. Bowers, not to
different-
interrupt, but really what that means, the consequence of that is that anyone who bought property after the grant of the zoning board relief had no right to rely on the underlying zoning ordinance, but only the zoning ordinance as granted with the relief of the ZBA, right?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I didn't mean to make light of it, what I simply meant to say.
No, it's important, and I think it's an important consideration for the board.
Yes, but most of the area was developed prior to the change, so they have 10-yard side yards. So the 11.8 is not going to change the nature and character of the area.
Yeah, those two factors combined indicate that, everyone should have expected the fact that these things were going to be built with the variance relief already granted. Right? That's my point. So I think that inures to your benefit.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
So, Mr.
Thank
Bowers, would you like to amend the poll to take out? I'm getting
Excuse
some feedback. Is someone else getting feedback?
Not me.
Yes, I'm getting feedback.
I'm getting some good feedback. Would you like to amend the poll meeting regarding the floor area ratio?
Yeah, we're going to withdraw the request for FAR and also the rear yard of 17.1. We're going to conform to both FAR and the rear yard setbacks.
Okay, so I make a motion to amend the application, the call of the meeting for lot 1 to remove, hold on, instead of required 25 feet in floor area ratio of 28% instead of permitted 25% on lot 1. And on lot 2, as to lot 2, rear yard of 17 by 1 feet instead of required 25 feet and floor area ratio of 28% instead of permitted 25. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
I'll second the application, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Mr. Grimm.
Are we doing that? That changes on both lots?
Yeah, with
That is-
the
yes.
FAR on lot 1 and the rear yard and FAR on lot 2, correct?
Oh, no, rear yard on both.
Rear yard on both.
Correct.
Okay,
It's
rear
the
yard of
same
17
amendment. It's the
both.
same amendment for both lots.
All right,
Correct.
I'll second the motion as modified, Mr. Chairman.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, if I could share my screen, I have an aerial view I'd like to share with the board that gives some more information on the nature and character of the neighborhood.
Sure.
Let's see. This is a Google Earth image, but I was able to pull up through the use of tax maps. This is our subject throughout on Cornell that we're looking to develop 2 lots. Within this 2-block radius, there is 7 other homes that are built on 50-foot lots. 31 Cornell, 72 Dartmouth, 69, 19 Yale. Actually, our adjacent neighbor is also a 50-foot lot. And same thing over here at 35, believe it's Whitman. I also have some street views of those same homes. And you'll see this was an example. The rear yard of this is very tight, 50-foot wide lot. 31 Cornell. You can see all, just like Mr. Bowers had stated before, the rear yards are very tight on all these lots.
Okay.
Just a couple more
Yeah,
examples.
Mr. Graham, while you're doing that, I would just ask if you could email those PDFs to Ms. Passaro so that we have them for the record.
Of course.
Thank you.
Yep, there is 7 homes, and I just wanted to illustrate that all of them are 2-story homes. We're only planning on building a 1-story home as well. Pull up a couple extras here. This again, 55-foot wide lot, maybe only 8 or a 10-foot rear yard setback.
I'm just going to interrupt for 1 second because I think that Mr. Bowers will appreciate this. The corner lots enjoy shallow rear yards because they were built at a time when the builder could pick their front yard, right, Jay? probably turned his volume off because I think he was.
But, yeah, the answer to that is yes, but I've heard it expressed in a different fashion.
Perfect. Got and Deirdre from planning, any objection?
No objection. The house that was previously there had a side yard of, I believe, 8.1. So a lot of the houses in the area, though they might not have been granted the similar side yard that they're asking for now, they all have the similar side yard.
Okay.
And it's the only lot that's like this in that way, where it's 50 feet by 200.
Great.
So it's not like there's any other lot in the area that will be subdivided. So it's not creating a precedent for this kind of development. So
Yeah,
no,
the area looks fully developed, right, Ms. Ryan?
yep, it's fully developed.
And this is what we used to call, and Mary will appreciate this, a bowling alley lot, right, Mary?
It's unique to the neighborhood.
Oh, we've heard enough unique tonight. We're good. That's the prior application. Mr. Chairman, before we vote on this, can I just make one observation?
Sure.
I would just like to note that I believe Mr. Bowers upholds the zoning board's tradition of truly talented former chairman. Thank you.
Second.
He and his predecessor. He and his predecessor.
He is dearly missed by me anyway.
Me too.
Thank you.
Yes.
Even though he was always on the other
Me
side
too.
of the table from me, you know.
Does anyone wish to be heard this application?
I just want to note that we did have somebody register to speak, and they are across the street on the south side, adjacent to that recharge basin.
Mhm.
I've emailed them. They haven't zoomed in, even though they registered earlier today. So I don't know if you guys had spoken with John Meister.
Someone's raising their hand,
Oh no.
right? Does that say? Frank?
Yeah, you're right, John, but I thought that was an application that we heard already. You know what? I'm going to move him into the panel. Maybe I renamed him the wrong name, and this is John Meister.
Good evening. My name is John Meister. Can you hear me?
Terrific. Good
Yes,
job,
all right,
John.
sir.
Okay, my name is John Meister. I live at 25 Freeman Avenue, which is on the corner of Freeman and Cornell. So the property that we're discussing now is diagonally across from my property, and diagonally across from would be a catch basin. True what you had said, there was a one family dwelling on this property. My concern of splitting the property is, for one, if the developer can answer for me, is there going to be a driveway capability on these property? For the reason I say that is there are multiple cars that park on the street because of lack of driveway. And it makes it at times difficult to proceed east on Cornell with the cars parked there. So that's one question if someone can answer for me. And the other question is, with the small lot being that, will there be adequate amount of space for people to have storage? It's a quaint little, I lived here since 1985. It's a quaint little neighborhood. I would be concerned with people having storage, not having capability for storage, and there'll be storage throughout the yard and kind of disrupting the appeal of the neighborhood. So there's two questions I have for the panel.
I can answer that, Mr. Chairman. The CDA, these are going to be two modest sized homes, roughly only 1,200 square feet. We may make one bedroom, the other one 2 bedrooms, trying to target senior citizens for low income housing here. We will have adequate driveways for off-street parking, and part of the CDA's provisions, they do install storage sheds when no garages are proposed. And we also have the ability possibly to put basements in these.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Gunn. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, there were the two questions, the parking for one, and then also the storage on there.
Great. I think Mr. Graham adequately answered them. Do you have any further questions?
No, thank you.
All right, does anyone else wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Wex, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion that we grant the application.
As amended.
I'll
All in
second.
favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Application granted as amended. Have a great night.
Thank you very much.
Mr.
Have a good
Thank
night,
you.
everybody.
Thank you
Good
very much.
seeing you, Mr. Bowers.
Bye.
Yeah, Mr. Bowers,
Oh, you too,
Thank-
Glenn.
you look great.
Bye.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Great night, sir.
You look
Come
better,
pick
by the way, you look better than your predecessor. I just want to say.
Dick
No
Shire,
comment,
yeah.
Mr. Messina. Have a good night. Thank
I
you.
feel terrible moving Jay out of the panel right now.
I know.
Let's
Yeah.
just leave him here.
Yeah,
Good night.
really.
All right.
One more case, Jay. You can hang on.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night, Jay.
Next application number 372-20, Frank and Faith Ferranti, permission to erect second-story addition, leaving front yard of 24.9 feet instead of the required 25 feet. Second yard of 11 feet instead of required 15 feet. Side yard of 5 feet instead of the required 14 feet, resulting in floor area ratio of 31.6 instead of permitted 25%, resulting in a new structure on the lot having a width of 40 feet instead of required 75 feet, an area of 4,000 feet instead of required 7,500 square feet, and to leave deck having second front yard of 1/2 of a foot instead of the required 15 feet. Residence B District, northwest corner of Thayer Place, number 7, and Oak Neck Road, West Islip, New York. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
They are here. There we go.
How you doing? I believe our architect is on as well.
Okay.
Is that Mr. Kuhn?
Yes.
I don't think he registered. I have a Vincent Ferranti who just held their hand up. And I've moved him into the panel. And I think I had, Frank, I think I had you twice. So unless Charles Kuhn is under a different device, I don't have him registered.
Okay. Well,
I guess we'll try.
nice to see everyone. My name's Frankie Ferranti.
I'm Faith.
We are at 7th Thayer Place in West Islip, New York.
How are you tonight?
How you guys doing?
I think you guys are gonna be able to handle this well. Don't worry.
All right.
And if your
So-
architect comes in, we'll let him in.
Can you hear me at all?
Is that
I have another Frank Ferranti with no picture.
We have a Frank and we have a Vincent. Is Charles one of those two?
No, I'm Frankie.
Right, but then we have a second one. Did you possibly register two devices?
No, I'm Vincent.
that's
Hi, Vincent. There's a
There's
second Frank. I'm going to sweep out the second Frank now, okay? Oops, oops.
Who's Vincent with his application? Your dad, I'm assuming, or someone like?
Yeah.
yeah, he's like doing the contracting part for us.
Gotcha. All right.
So we came, should I start talking?
Good.
Okay. We came here, I guess a few months ago, and we were looking to do a second story on our house going straight up, not increasing the footprint or anything, but it was out of the percentage, way out of the percentage. So we came down to precedent. The deck was not even on our radar. The deck was built 1996. We purchased the house in 2010. We found out from Deidre that it was not where it should be.
Is it a deck or an entryway?
It
How
is
big-
the
how big
entryway
is
as well.
How big is it, the deck?
Figure about 6 feet deep or so.
Oh, I see. It's a wraparound?
Yeah, it's a wraparound. The part in question is the one that's closer to the property line there.
The Thayer Place.
Correct. Now, Thayer Place is a glorified driveway. There are only 3 residents on it, and we're one of them. Like I said, it's been there for 23, 24 years or so. So I would love to keep it. It would really be an expense we weren't expecting if that was, to change.
Do we have any pictures of this deck or we don't have?
I am home. I mean, I could run out and take a picture.
No.
Yeah.
Do we have an aerial that might show? And where is, okay.
Yeah, we're on the corner.
All right. And Thayer Place, you say only has 3 houses on it?
4 houses.
4 houses, only 3 of them are occupied.
Sorry, I don't know what happened.
That's okay. I doubt you can move anything that quickly if you tried, right, Ms. Ryan?
Doing better than I did, Deidre.
All right, so there's 1, 2, 3, okay, there's 3 houses across the street and 1 house next door to you on Thayer Place, right?
So 2 houses across the street and 1 next door. I know it's a really weird shaped property there on Thayer.
All right, the one on the corner directly across the street from you, is that a house there?
It's a weird shaped property. It's actually kind of set
I
in.
asked if there was a house.
Yeah, there's a house.
That's a
Okay.
house.
So there are 4, you said 3 are occupied, right?
There are 4 total. We are one of them. There are 3 others. Yeah.
Okay.
Must be missing something. Okay.
So that little triangular, if you want to call it that lot, that's not an addition to that inline looking.
There's no structure on that. It's just grass.
That's a trapezoid, Mr. Chairman. I know a little geometry still.
So where is his 4th house? That's what I don't get.
So we're one.
Right.
Then next to us is a very large property, is 2.
Right.
Across from them are two houses.
Right.
That
And what
big-
about that property on the corner across the street from you? That has a house on it too, or is that one big lot?
That's Oak Neck. That's not on Thayer.
It doesn't touch Thayer at all. This one?
No, the
one
one
in
right
front
at
of that, the
right in front
trapezoid.
of that. Is that part of that house?
Yeah, this is all one property.
Okay,
one property.
that's what I was missing.
Me
That's
too.
what
That's what I was missing also. All right, so we have the second story addition, front yard 24.9 instead of 25, de minimis. Second front yard 11 instead of required 15.
House,
Southern,
11.
excuse me?
The house is 11 feet from the property line.
Yeah, gotcha. Side yard of 5 instead of required 14 on that. And that's what you're saying, that's what your house holds now? Or no?
Are you going straight up, sir?
Yes, we're going straight up.
Mr. Fronte, you're gonna have to say your name and address for the record.
I'm
Just-
sorry, Vincent Ferrante, 26 Chatham Street, Deer Park, New York.
Your mother named you well, sir.
Thank you. You can call me Vinny.
That's great. So you're going straight up and right over the same footprint that you have now?
Correct.
Okay. The new code is in there. And then we have the deck. Deirdre from planning, any objection to anything in this application other than the thing I think?
It's just the raised deck that's on the property line that's a little concerning. No objection to the second floor, other than they're over the 30% and there's no precedent higher than 30%. But the house is sitting very close, so if they're just going straight up, I don't think it's necessarily a bigger impact. And the houses to the north, all I believe are 2-story dwellings. But just the FAR and the deck, really.
This may be a one outlier that West Islip does not have a high FAR property. We always hear West Islip being a shock.
Right?
Mr. Chairman, maybe the applicants would like to keep it at 30% even and makes it very grantable.
Last time we were here, we were told that the precedent was 31.6. That's why we were so specific on the 31.6.
And who told you that?
Deidre.
I have a precedent for 30.6, but not 31.6.
All right. What about the deck, Deirdre? What's the objection to the deck?
I've just figured out how to share it. I'm quite impressed with myself.
I see it. It looks great.
Oh,
The objection to the deck is just that it is on the property line, so I'm a little concerned about anything being
well,
granted
the
afterwards.
stairway looks to be, I mean, it looks like there's a lot of property between the deck and the curb, right?
There is.
That's why we were.
Is it just,
I didn't.
hang on, I'm talking to Ms. Ryan, hang on. Is it just that's right of way? Is that what that is?
Yeah. Let me see if the property survey gives edge of pavement. I don't think it does.
Yeah, I don't see it.
But you see what the property survey does do. We'll ask our resident survey expert, John Lorenzo, to look at this with me. John, you see the survey?
I don't have a copy of the survey. I just have the.
What? Sorry
Put
about
it up
that.
on the screen. Put it up on the screen.
Yeah, Deirdre can share that. I'll stop sharing now.
I don't have that either.
You don't have the property survey?
No.
I might have gotten it when they were
and I have.
I didn't put it in this PDF. Sorry.
Okay, so what the property survey indicates, and I'll try to share that in a second, is that paver walkway that you can just about see in that photo that I shared.
Yeah.
Is entirely in the right of way, as are the, well, that's not good. The stairs, the 5 stairs are actually in the right of way as well.
You're right away also. Yeah.
So probably to answer your question, Mr. Vice Chairman, Thayer Place probably has a much narrower curb to curb width than 34 feet, or even maybe even narrower than 28 feet.
And you know, look, we can't, the right of way issue isn't even before us. So
No,
we'll get the-
I really
yeah,
meant to answer.
and they're either in accordance with it or they're not.
Yeah, no, I really meant to answer for you. I meant to explain
no,
that there is
I
excessive
appreciate
right
that.
of way here.
Thank you. But I think the impacts are mitigated by such a large right of way. That
Right.
was,
That's right.
Right. I just wanted to say that if it could be specified for the specific house at least. I just don't want people building decks that are
Right.
raised. I forgot, they're just under 48 inches I have
Yeah.
from last meeting.
we don't want that either, I'm sure.
Right. So that's my only hesitation.
Okay.
I agree.
If I can chime in, if the precedent is 30.6, I think we should hew to that.
Why am I not surprised, Mr.
Yeah, I'm a precedent guy.
You are indeed, sir. You are consistent, and I respect that.
Well, may I say something?
Sure.
We're talking about 1%.
Yeah, but 1% is large in the world of zoning.
I understand that, but
Okay,
it's
good.
not every house on that block. It's the smallest house on the block and in the area right now.
But they're all proportionate.
We get that. We get that. 1% is a lot easier for you to find than for us to grant, I think, is Mr. Wexler's point.
I like that. I'm going to quote you on that.
Thanks, Vin. You're a lot of help.
Yeah.
Mr. Ferranti, you don't know how much help I just gave you.
I'm sure we could find that 1%.
There you go.
Yeah,
There we
that
go.
shouldn't be a
There we
problem.
go.
Does anyone,
This man saved the night. There you go.
does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Wexler, I will take a motion.
I will make a motion that we deny so much of the application seeking an FAR of 31.6, but grant 30.6 FAR and grant the remainder of the application.
I second that, and I just asked our counsel to put in a provision in the decision noting the right-of-way issue here, which makes this unique.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Have a great night, guys.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Enjoy. Good luck on the construction.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right. Jeff.
All right, Ms. Bissari, you have anything to read into the record? To vote on in the record, by the way?
Just give me 1 second. We're still sweeping out the last applicants.
Hey, Jay looked good, didn't he?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Yep.
Doing a great job there.
Yep.
We promised a quick decision last week. Do you want to hear about it?
We're on the record and we're live.
We are. We are.
Have a decision to read in.
No, we don't have a decision to read in prepared. We do have 2 accessory apartment renewals. They are application number 609. Oh, these are renew and transfers, which are now public session, not public hearing. 609-20 and 610-20.
I'll move that we grant with the
Second.
3 years.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And other than that, I'm sorry, I didn't have time today to pull together anything else that's been on
Chairman, I'll
reserve.
move that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.